There are certain structures that I think us as a species that we have taken for granted. We're social animals, and social structure is the number one thing that dominates our lives. And I'm not talking about the government or society, I'm talking about how every individual social circle forms. It's usually passed off as just culture or tradition, which it might well be in some senses that, but it's much more than that. It's the way that you negotiate the negotiation between individual identity and group identity, and where you are placed within that group identity. Like what function of the group do you serve? So it's like if you just imagine like cogs in a machine, right? So it's like which cog are you within that machine? So that's an anecdote that might help illustrate that idea. But and I'm starting to think that this thing is much more devious. Yeah, I think it's like this entire thing of having to negotiate your personal identity within the group identity, that itself can become devious because not everyone's engaging in good faith. In fact, there are a lot of people who are not engaging in good faith, and not only are they lying to themselves, but they're not only are they lying to others, they're lying to themselves, which is that most people don't follow the sociological observer thing, or what Mel Robbins calls the let them theory, or the let them tactic, is that you let them, you don't try to control others, you just let them behave in whatever ways they're naturally behaving in, and you sort of stay firm in your sovereignty, but you let them be and you let them show their true colors and stuff. But I don't think most people do that. I think most people have deceitful intentions where they play themselves, where they act out certain characters when they're forming new friends, forming new bonds, and they have an inner sort of agenda of what they might want from this other person, which undermines the other person's sovereignty, but they wouldn't like to admit it, because that would basically give away that you're trying to control others, even when and others are trying to control you. So it's a very dysfunctional pattern. So unless and until there's something like if you're being very articulate about what you want and what you don't, I don't think you're doing it right. There is a right way to do things. You might pass it off as culture or tradition, but I would say that it's actually social dysfunction, just because it's become accepted at the level of a nationwide population, or smaller population, doesn't mean that it's the right way to do things. I think so. Yeah. So it is bad faith. It can be considered as bad faith behavior, that you're trying to control others and others are trying to control you. So unless and until you have, and that's why the ones who say what they're looking for out bluntly, like if they're forthcoming and forward about their agenda, they're somehow seen as too blunt or too obtuse in their approach, which I don't think they should be seen as that, because they're in fact trying to make the interaction as quick and as meaningful as possible, because everyone's looking to attach meaning to the relationships they form. We are social animals, we need others and others need us, but nobody wants to admit that, because everyone's out there trying to suppress that they don't need others, and they're trying to sort of, and the society suppresses any expression that might be seen as needy, where, you know, in reality neediness is just your needs being overexpressed rather than underexpressed. And the ones who are usually guilty of calling others needy, they're the neediest people of all, because they're the ones who play the most types of social games, I think.